good? Gavel. All right, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Brothers of the Brush annual Candidates Night. For those who don't know, the Brothers start every event with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody wants to stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Beautiful.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. We like to do this once a year to give everybody the opportunity to introduce themselves and say why they're running for office. I'm going to turn everything over to Mr. Ferrucci here, and
You don't have to.
I'm gonna. He's gonna invite everybody up one at a time and ask some questions, and I'll be in the crowd with a microphone in case anybody has any questions for the candidates.
Thank you,
Very
Chad.
good.
Greatly appreciate it. Again, welcome everybody, especially to the candidates. Even though you're on the ballot and you are going for a specific position and you're unopposed, I thank you from the residents of the town of Mendon for showing up. We're going to have some fun tonight. We're out of here by 8, last call. So we're just going to go as you are going to appear on the ballot. Could our moderator for 1 year, Thomas Moroli, please come up?
Where do you want me to stand? Like,
Outside?
Right next to Dick.
all right, sounds good. Hey everybody, Tom Morali, been the moderator a few years now, going for another year.
You actually sit by the table and use the microphone.
Okay,
Sorry.
yeah.
See, our meeting is run a little different than yours. We have structure.
All right, hi, my name's Tom Morali. Been the moderator a few years now, going back for another year. The reason you might feel like I'm up here all the time is because this is actually a year-long term. I'm up every single year. So I have to go and get the signatures and get elected every year. I'm happy to do it as many times as you'll have me, because it's a position that I've grown to love very much. Moderator runs the town meetings, as you may be aware. Town meeting isn't just a meeting, it's the legislative body of the town. Think of it like this, our town meeting is our Congress. Instead of having representatives, you're your own legislator. So that's why it's such an important thing. It's so important to make sure it's accessible and make sure that that we get as many people out to these as possible to have a true representation of what the town wants. I've strived to try to do that, make town meeting more accessible, implement electronic voting, to make it so that people more comfortable voting for things at town meeting. I've tried to hold town meeting walkthroughs before every single town meeting to ensure that the processes of town meeting are laid out clear before people participate in them. And I try to be available for any questions people have. I've met people before in town when they have questions about what's going on at town meeting beforehand, and it's a practice I'm going to continue doing. So thanks again for giving me your vote all these years. I hope you'll do it again, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, Mr. Moderator, I have a question. Why is it a state thing? It's mandated for 1 year, or is it a Mendon thing?
I'm not sure. I think it's a Mendon thing, but I'm actually not sure if that's the case. I just know in Mendon it's 1 year. That's all I know.
So how do you go about changing that?
Well, I think you'd have to pass a bylaw at town meeting. And
Let me ask you something. I mean, you're the moderator.
I am.
Can't you make a motion to go for 3 years or 5 years?
Well, no, it would have to be put on the warrant. I can't just make a motion.
Wait a minute. I've seen you make motions at that town meeting.
You've never seen me make a motion at town meeting. I call for motions and, you know, I introduce the people who are going to make the motions. But at town meeting, we have to go by what's on the warrant. The warrant is prepared by and approved by the select board, which is our executive body, and including other executive bodies in town, like the planning board, among others. Also, citizens have the opportunity to put something on the warrant directly. But as moderator, I can't just put something on there that wasn't on there. In fact, I'm supposed to keep everything within the scope of what the articles say. So any motion someone makes, if it's outside the scope of what's written and printed on the warrant and sent to all the residents in town, it's my job to rule it out of order.
Good.
So.
Good. Anybody have any questions of Tom? How's this year's town meeting looking?
Oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be a fun time.
How do you determine great?
I've determined great based on the fact that it's going to be really fun, and I think I'm looking forward to it. I think everybody in town's looking forward to it, which is why next Tuesday, I hope to see everybody there. We're going to be in the gym this time because we're expecting a big crowd for some reason. I think there's some items of great interest on this town meeting warrant that are going to bring people out. So,
But isn't that a good idea?
What?
To have as many people?
Oh, I absolutely.
Taxpayers,
I'm in
voters.
favor of it. I am absolutely in
You'd like
favor.
that.
So many people. I would love to have every single resident there. Now, we'd have to get creative with how to fit everybody in one room, but you know, ideally that's the goal, right? To have a true representation of the town present in town meetings, and everybody voting.
So, Tommy, we had one person, I'm not going to mention where they live or their name. The question is directed to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a certain number of people attending, do you get do you get more money?
No, I do not.
Anybody else?
I wonder if that person lives on Millville Road.
Yeah, number 9. Thank you, Tommy. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thanks
service.
for having me.
Thank you. Select Board, we have Jason Cutter, who's running for re-election, and Brian Morford, who is running for election. You know what? Why don't both you guys come up here? Since you're going to be friends. Yeah, you got 2 mics. You're going to get used to these seats, right? Especially you've been here before. So, Jason, we'll go with you first. Just give us a little dig-dag of who you is.
Who I am. So I'm Jason Cooter. I'm currently the Select Board Chair. This is my 3rd year of this, my first term, and I decided to run again for a 2nd term. I've been in town for going on 13 years. I think one of the questions they asked on this form was like, what is one of the accomplishments that you want to let the town know of? And I thought really hard about that. We've done a lot of really cool stuff this year. A lot of it's municipal and policy related, so maybe somewhat boring, but still interesting for town government. I think the biggest thing that happened this year was the participation. And so you had mentioned, wouldn't it be great if everybody showed up to town meeting? It would be absolutely awesome. Like, wouldn't it be great if this room were filled? Wouldn't it be great if somebody was running against me so we had some different ideas to kind of go back and forth on? That would be awesome. I think more than one of the things that brought people together this year was, we've got the Providence Culvert and the town budget. We were able to fill this room multiple times in the last couple of months with people who wanted to say something. And I think it's really important to come out and say something when you want to be heard. And I think that's sort of one of the hardest things for us to do, is to convince people to come sit in these chairs and to say, you know, I am Jason Cooter, I live on Blackstone Street, and then give my opinion. That's hard. We get it. If you don't want to come, though, you can just send us an email. We will also take that correspondence. And I think this year the dialogue really changed a lot. Those were pleasant meetings. Those weren't meetings where people were, you know, in fisticuffs or yelling at one another. Those were meetings where people came up and they gave their concerns and the board sat and listened. And I think that's sort of the best outcome in these democratic situations. And like, I really hope we see that again at town meeting. That's why we moved it to the gymnasium. So that's a little bit about me. You can watch hundreds of hours of me yapping and telling terrible jokes on YouTube. So I'm pretty sure you should all have an idea about the type of individual I am. But I'm really looking forward to doing this for another 3 years. It's not just what we do up here, but it's that sentiment that people are benefiting from the volunteer work that we're doing, and that I'm doing the best to make everybody, you know, feel valued and get something out of government, but just recognizing it's not possible to make everybody 100%.
Well, I can tell you categorically, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Question for you is, does a 5-member board work?
Oh, I love that question. Yes, absolutely. The best part about the 5-member board over a 3-member board, I think if you ask anybody on a 5-member board, they'll say this, is that, you know, in a public meeting setting, this is where we can have those discussions. We're not sitting at home texting each other or sending each other emails or calling each other because we can't. That's against public meeting law. We can communicate with one other board member. Anything more than that makes a quorum. And so the biggest part, the biggest benefit of a 5-member board is that 2 of us can work on a project together without interrupting public meeting policy. And so I'd say the biggest thing that we did this year that the 5-member board allowed us to do was, and Brendan Chanel's not here, hopefully he's listening online, but he pushed through a select board policy that he was, you know, 2 of us were able to work on that policy together. It's, you know, it's multiple pages, lots of documentation. This is why government takes so long. And so that 5-member board is what solves those types of
Well, I
problems.
appreciate your answer. We're going to let you sit here, and we're going to hear from our newest member coming in. Brian, just give us a little bit about who you are.
Sure.
And
So I'm Brian Morford, 22 Wood Drive, 62 years old. Been a resident of Mendon, coming this September for 30 years. Same house down on Wood Drive. You won't be able to look up my background because I'm not a social media guy, never been. So it's a black hole when you look for my background. But you may have crossed paths with me. The volunteer work that I have done in the town in the past is 8 years as a youth baseball coach, and also serving all that time on the baseball board in several different capacities there. I'm a former naval officer, raised 2 kids here. One's a Marine infantry officer, another is in retail down in Long Island. My wife and I have been married 33 years and have thoroughly enjoyed our time here in Mendon. As far as, you know, what drives me, and I'll give Sharon Luttrell, who's here in the audience, a shout out. I'm working on her questionnaire, which has some really good, thoughtful questions that you'll be seeing on her space, the Mendon Commons. I'm committed to give it to her tomorrow. So I've been using that, you know, as I saw your email. I was like, ooh, what am I going to say that night? So you get to know who I am. You know, why I just made this decision a couple of months ago to serve on the board. And it wasn't a plan. I talked to Mike Goddard, who's been on the board for 9 years and done a fabulous job. What he thought of the experience, because I said, I'm giving thought whenever it's the right time. He's like, well, it's the right time because we have a vacancy. So I decided, yep, I'm going to step in and do that. The reason I give you that background is something that's important to me is service to something bigger than yourself. And It's so rewarding and so important for each of us, wherever we can, in any way we can, to serve our community or our country and give back. As far as like what drives me as being a board member, or whether it's in my personal life or in my private life, two words really, integrity and character. And what I mean by integrity, it's being driven at all times to do the right thing, even if that's not easy, being trustworthy, being honest, and as far as character, it can go by a lot of different definitions, but I like to think of it as courage, being willing and being committed to having both moral courage as well as physical courage, and again, especially when it's not easy to do that, and stand up, and like I say, being committed to do the right thing. So how would I bring that to the board? We all have our own opinions of what right is and what the community wants to see. First, I want to defer to Jason and what the previous board members have done. I've had the pleasure, once I made the decision, of coming to each meeting and watching what's going on and speaking individually to each of them over some pretty considerable lengths of time. And I've been impressed that all 5 members are pulling in the same direction. Doesn't mean that everyone in the community is in agreement, but they truly are trying to do the right thing for the town. They may just have a different of opinion, and that's okay. It's good to have that dialogue, and that's, as we're talking about, it's important that all of us are involved in the process. You know, I'm not trying to pontificate, but something that's important to me is, you know, our founding fathers gave us such an incredibly flexible and solid structure, but it was based on 2 assumptions: that each of us as citizens care about it and are willing to put in the work, because being a citizen in a democratic constitutional republic is not easy. It demands work, and that can be hard. The other assumption is that our elected officials are invested the same way. They care, not about themselves, but about the betterment of the community. So I just wanted to give the shout out to Jason and what the board's done, because they have come together and looked at opportunities and where the board can be stronger for the benefit of the community, and they've worked as a team in that direction.
Thank you. I wish you well.
Thank you.
And I want to just acknowledge your family for service,
Oh,
and you too.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's very thoughtful of you to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I get paid to do that.
Not by me though, right?
Yeah, well, we won't get into that. but,
We'll talk later.
Questions for either candidate, please? Anybody? Anything? Yes, sir. Mike?
Yeah, Carl Hummel, 15 Misco Road, because I say that every time I start talking. We know how Jason voted on these things, but you were around for the discussions about the cemetery road being
Yep.
two-way and the Prop 2.5 override questions. So if you had been on the board, what would your votes have been on those 2 topics?
Yeah, and you and I and Jason, we discussed this a little bit. He's smiling at me, so he gave me the benefit of
I just
You-
love the politics.
So, obviously, I'm not an elected member of the board yet, and I defer to them. I will say, in all the meetings that I've attended, I would have voted the same way the board had. I was in direct connection with them and thought the same way. On the question that you specifically asked about Cemetery Road, and we all know how much passion there is on that, on what's going on there, and we talked about it just a little bit ago. My personal decision is based on what the timing is. I just found out, we talked about that the DOT approval just came through, so that's gonna now open the door to the next project milestones. But it may be challenging to get in the ground before the fall. If we can, great, then we charge forward, and the decision's already been made. That's gonna remain a one-way thoroughfare. But what I would like to discuss, bring up to the board, I think they'll be open to it, is if we can't get into the ground by the fall, which pushes us, more than a year out, we can revisit that idea. And not that the original decision was taken too lightly, because I don't think that's the case. But because of the passion that it engendered, it's worth another look, right?
Good. Anybody else have any questions? I know Tommy has one that we received.
Yes, we had to put it out to the public before the meeting to see if anyone wanted to submit any questions. And so we have a question here that we throw out to two candidates here. What would be your view on the town, should the town continue to buy up open space, or should they use it for other purposes such as subdivisions or businesses? What would be your line of thought there?
I'm going to defer to you, Mr. Chairman, at this moment in time. You are much more experienced with this.
Yeah, this question gets modeled differently in my mind depending on what's going on. And so like this last Saturday, we were just talking about this open space over here. Last Saturday, I was down looking at the Muddy Brook Trail expansion or creation. And I was standing in that field, and I think I've heard Ken O'Brien, I think many of us have heard Ken O'Brien speak passionately about that space. And I was standing in the middle of that field and looking out and thinking, this is, like, I get it now. Like, I was, like, you know, really dead in the middle of that field looking out on this giant expanse thinking, like, this is exactly why we preserve this space. Like, it's beautiful out here. It's a landmark. And what we were talking about at the time was having kids coming out of the elementary school to go down on these trail systems. So in that moment, like, I'm really grateful that we're able to put, you know, land aside, and we have public housing coming on board because of that. This year it'll be on the warrant. Lower income housing. But the whole point of not having enough manufacturing or retail or revenue generating businesses, that's a real thing, but it's not related to our purchase of land, it's our lack of services. And so I think the town has to just continue to balance when it purchases, when it sells, and when it reuses for passive or active recreation. And I think we're set up really good right now to ensure that happens.
Unfair question for you, you can.
I
respond to
completely
it.
agree.
Keeping it simple.
Going to be a great year. Anything else?
That was it.
Anybody else? Danny, nobody up on the board? Well, I congratulate the both of you. The board, in my opinion, is running well.
Appreciate it.
And the concerns that you guys have for the townspeople and the voters of this community, and the things that you're planning. And you got some hard questions coming before you, but I feel very comfortable and confident that you guys will handle them. And I wish you both well.
Thank you very much.
Good
Appreciate
luck.
your time.
Good luck.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir.
Especially for the selectmen, there's a donation box out in the corner. Or you can come back here. I'll give you a Tootsie Roll for whatever. I don't see the Board of Assessors. I don't see David. I don't see no one, Alan, for the Board of Health. But the Mendon Upton Regional School Committee, Sean? And before he sits, let me tell you Saturday morning at Shaw's.
Sit quickly.
I was short $10 paying for the groceries. I didn't know he was behind me. I think it's legal. He paid for the groceries.
I did.
Well, you don't remember?
No, I don't remember that.
Anyway, welcome.
Oh, thank you. I think what I said pretty clearly was nothing, and you said you wanted to see the bananas if you're going to treat
And
me
he bought a
nice.
banana tonight.
Where's the banana?
He did?
So I showed you the bananas.
Yeah,
I hope that means you're going to give me
yeah,
easy questions.
yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm Sean Nicholson. This is my 4th time running for the school committee. It's been a long, long time, but I wanted to do it because no one else was running. We are actually starved for people to run for the different committees in the town, but school committee is one of them. I would really love to see some more people come out and run next time around so I can retire. But yeah, it's given me a chance to be involved in many of the different activities that are in the school committee. The building committee has started up to utilize the funds that were approved last year. There's a lot of different activities relative to improving the schools and making sure that we stay within the budget that we've assigned. So I just want to, as just a backdrop, go through some of the things that we've accomplished over the last 3 years to just set the stage for any types of questions you have and anything. There's a few things I'm incredibly proud of the schools for. The academic performance in the schools has never been better. We've got very high scores in the MCAS, in the ACTs and SATs coming out of the high school, and also in the AP program, which has really accelerated over the past 3 years. We have record levels of students getting qualification scores in the APs, which is a 3 or above, but we've also gotten some exceptional students come out with awards coming from the AP program, which is just wonderful. The college matriculation rate for our students is above 85%, and some of the best colleges in the country are getting our students, which is incredible to say. I mean, when we first moved in here, I don't think we had that, but we have an enormous opportunity awaiting any of our students that go through NITMUC. It's an incredible thing, really. 30 to 40% consistently every year get the Abigail Adams Scholarship, which shows that they're getting great scores in the MCAS. We have not only in academics, but we also have qualifying high qualifications in the music program, where we've performed at the state level, at the highest state level, where they've won the competitions involved. Music and drama. There's also business, DECA this year, the business organization or business fostering business across students in the state. We came out with such an amazing team this year. We had 30-some kids go to the nationals, where we had, I believe, 4 or 5 members of our DECA team placed in the top and essentially the championship spot. So nationally, which is just very impressive. I'm incredibly proud of the students for doing that. The thing I think I'm most impressed about with the school this year is our recovery from 2022. As you might remember, there were a lot of problems with children having problems with regression in math, not being able to do as well in math across the country, not just in Massachusetts, but also there's behavioral degradation and attendance and chronic absenteeism, and then the graduation rates were declining at some of those schools. And a lot of those schools that had problems are still experiencing those problems. They can't come up to the levels that they were at before COVID hit. So I'm very proud to say we've come up to those levels and surpassed them. We're on track now. We're out of that whole problem. The math scores are starting to come up again. We've got a lot of very positive aspects of all of this. Our attendance for the past, I would say 3 years ago, our attendance, our chronic absenteeism was up in the 20% range. We're down to 13% now. There's a lot of behavioral consultation and really advice we're giving to the kids now. So things are starting to turn around and we're starting to recover from that whole thing. We've got $900,000 in grant funding this year. I mean, that's incredible. For such a small administration staff, I think we've really excelled in that. Our school choice, which is kids that opt into our school district, is 174 kids this year. Chose to go from wherever they are in Massachusetts and attend our school district. And within our 2 towns, 39 kids decided to leave for some other district. So we've got a surplus of 135 kids, 135 families that have chosen to be part of our school district because they were very attracted to it. So that says something about what we're trying to do with the district. So with that, I know we've got a big financial assistance ask this year. I'd be willing to answer any questions you have or field any questions from you.
Thank you, Senator.
One or two
Anybody?
from, one or two from you, Dick? Just
No,
one?
no, I'll get to you in a minute. Anybody have any questions at all? But yes, please.
Carl Hummel, 15 Misco Road again. My question, we're in a regional school district, which means that you are on a school board along with other members who are elected from Upton. How do you see the balance between you being elected by Mendon residents to represent the interests of Mendon towards a more collaborative approach on working to further the education of students in both towns?
Well, as you might know already, we're separated 3 members from Mendon, 3 members from Upton. The population of students that go to the school from either town is roughly 50-50. Right now, I think Mendon is on the lower side of 50%. It's 47% or something, and Upton is a higher percentage. But generally speaking, the communities are very similar in their objectives. There are a lot of parents that want to see the best opportunities for their children. I think that's not rocket science, right? And there are a lot of objectives that are favorable to making sure that students get the best education they possibly can. That said, there are different financial requirements from either town, and we have to struggle with that every year, trying to balance the requirements of one town versus the other. Usually you don't pit the towns against each other. That would be bad policy. But the idea is to make sure that you have an understanding and a relationship with both towns so that you can progress the objectives of the school as best as the town can support. So to give you an example, this year we were very happy to work with the representatives from town government. I think Mendon has been very supportive this year. Upton has had a different situation going on. They're trying to replace their town government, so they're in a little bit in flux this year. But as far as Mendon is concerned, Mendon Town has been very cooperative. You see one of the select board members at our meetings, at our subcommittee meetings. They understand our problems, our dilemmas, and what we're encountering as far as financial problems, and they're working with us. So I'm very happy to say that we're reaching agreements and really kind of more than negotiation. I think we're working out problems together and trying to solve something that's for the good of the community, which I'm very happy about.
I know
So
you
I hope that
mentioned-
answered your question.
Yeah, no, thank you. New school,
Yeah.
timeline,
So this is a fascinating question because we had to actually examine this for last year's debt exclusions. So as the previous debt exclusions were expiring and ending the previous year, I believe it was 2022 or 2023, we were saying, how do we approach the problem of refurbishing the infrastructures for the schools? So we did a survey for every one of the buildings to try to find out where the gaps and the problems were and whether they were reconcilable or whether we had to think about building a new building. And the obvious one that comes to mind is Misco Hill Elementary, right? And the assessors came back and said, this building has got at least 30 more years in it, which we were all shocked by. That means that not only was it rock solid construction from our good old days, of American property, but it also, I think, means that we've been able to maintain it. There's a lot of school districts that have latent obligations for the future in the infrastructure that they haven't maintained well enough or they've allowed to degrade. And we've been able to keep our infrastructures good, and that's allowed us to minimize the cost of the communities as we need to refurbish them. So no, not for more than probably 30 years at this point.
so what you're telling me and everybody is, you're not gonna come before us for another 30 years for new school?
Well, that's what our assessor
Wow.
said. So we'll probably do the same assessment again
Good.
to make sure that we're on track there.
Good.
But the whole purpose behind the debt exclusions last year was to make sure our capital infrastructure was well maintained, and we're maintaining it going forward.
You had a question about on the warrant at the town meeting on their budget money?
Well, we do have one question that'll be on the warrant, yeah. That question is simply, shall the town of Mendon be allowed to assess an additional 1.1 million in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of funding the Mendon Upton Regional School District operational budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026? So with that, I guess probably the general question would probably be, what would be your viewpoint on that proposal?
And the reasons for it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So this has been I would have to say, for us, it's been a shock to us. That's not a fun thing for me to say, because we like to think of ourselves as proactively thinking ahead, making sure we have coverage for the next 5 years. That's the idea behind a 5-year plan, right?
Right.
This year, it hit us because of a rapid increase in healthcare costs, which accounts for 1.5 million out of the total. The total between both towns is 4.1 million, so it's a very big ask. But that and the out-of-district placements were higher this year, as well as a few requirements for some techs in help in the classroom and some special ed techs. So the total ask is pretty dramatic. I would say if we didn't have, I checked this out today with Jay to make sure I wasn't speaking garbage here, but if we didn't have the out-of-district school placement expenses, which are sizable, as a surprise, and we didn't have the healthcare increase, which is 30% healthcare costs, which is mind-blowing. But if we didn't have those two things, I think we would have been able to figure out how to get through the next year or two, no guarantees on that, in order to come back to the town. Embedded in all of the budget discussions we have a structural deficit with the state funding the way it's set up. The way that we approach the budget, we try to keep below the 2.5% limit. We've been able to accomplish that within Mendon. We have 1.59 compound annual growth rate over the last 10 years. And in Upton, it's more. It's about 2.59%. But the idea there is keeping as close as we can to the levy limit. That said, there are lots of demands, including inflation, which is averaged between 2.6 and 2.8% over the last 10 years. And we had a 3.3% inflation rate just in the past year. So I think we've accomplished quite a bit over the last 10 years. There were some extenuating circumstances which allowed us to delay that. But this year we're socked in with a very expensive increase in healthcare insurance, which was a complete surprise to us, and the out-of-district placement, which is really at the option of parents needing to get the proper services for the kids.
So when you mentioned out-of-district,
Yes.
so you mentioned there's 35 kids that are going to other schools.
That actually is school choice.
School choice.
Right, that's school choice. That's not at the out-of-district placement.
Okay, so what does Mendon get, what happens to the students that chosen to come to Nipmuc?
So,
Whatever.
plain and simple, the towns that they are located in then give to us the money that's used for education. So similar to us giving the students, 39 families decided they wanted to go out of district.
Right.
We would have to give money to the districts where they went.
Right,
So that's the agreement we have within the school choice program in the state.
but we get monies coming back from.
That's correct. We're a net taker in that formula, which is very, very good.
Okay.
Now, as far as out of district placement, that has to do with special ed schools
yeah.
typically, or it will be like from the town level. We don't deal with this anymore. The town deals with vocational schools and out of district placement for vocational schools. But that's very expensive. And the rates for those schools are going up all the time.
I can see that.
By 12, 15, 18% a
I
year.
can see that. Anybody else got any questions, concerns?
I will say, Dick, we do have a couple of individuals that have joined us remotely.
Oh, very good,
So
very
if
good.
the folks who join remotely have a question, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be happy to hear you out. No takers for a question. They're happy listening to what's being said.
Well, it's been very informative. And the reason that the middle school is so structurally sound is 56 classmates of mine graduated, first ones from that school.
Good. Well, that just, it gave him the good mojo. Oh,
Not
there's a
really.
funny story there. There's actually a transformer that is the oldest thing you've ever seen in a building. And it's in a very small room in the corner, and it's apparently filled with oil from some time in the 1950s that is still sitting there in Misco Hill. And we went out to National Grid and we said, could you change this? We're upgrading our infrastructure here. And they said, no, we're not going to change it. Working fine.
That's one of the things. That's one of the things the class of '61 left.
But the one piece of advice they gave us was, you're going to want, in case anything happens, you're going to want to put a stronger door on that room.
Wow.
Which said, no, we're changing the damn transformer. But yeah, that's.
Well,
that's
I know
incredible.
it's not an easy time to be on a school board. And I thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you
And
very
I
much.
thank the rest of the members from both Upton and Mendon.
Very good.
Keep it
I'll
going.
pass it on, yeah.
Keep it going.
That's what a good banana gets me right there, is a really nice
That's
question at the
tonight.
end.
Good luck to you. Congratulations. Parks Commissioner for 2 years. Stephen? Park, green grass, and green shirt.
Green shirt,
I love it.
Mendon Upton,
Nothing wrong with Mendon Upton. Just tell us, Stephen, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Steve Abbott. I have lived in Mendon since 2009, so just about 17 years now. I raised my son Sam and my daughter Kayla here through the school system, and they're both doing fantastic, and they both graduated and going to great institutions. My wife Kelly, of 21 years, she was a trustee for the library for quite a few years, and now, it's my turn to step up. So I've been using Parks and Recreation facilities now since I joined the town, and quite honestly, I just wanted to give back. I'm a serial volunteer. I volunteer for everything. I volunteer for scouts, for soccer, for town cleanup. Pretty much anytime someone asks me to volunteer, I'll volunteer. So when the vacancy showed up, I said, why not? I'll do it.
I'm going to ask you this, thank you for your service. I'm going to ask you the same questions. I'm going to have Joanne coming up. Do we have enough fields?
Honestly, I don't believe we do have enough fields. I think, with the fields renovations coming up at Misco, we're finding out that we need to shuffle things around to work for the youth programs, and the more fields, the better. I was fully in support of the turf field in Upton, even though that's in Upton, but it's going to help our community as well.
I watched the Little League parade a week ago. And I can't believe the number of kids that were on that field.
Yeah, it's great.
And they all weren't there.
Yeah.
Most of the Little League guys weren't there, right? Some of them were.
I'm not sure about
Yeah.
that, but
I can't believe it. Unbelievable.
did you happen to see the buildings in the facility? That's my son did that for
Did he?
his Eagle Scout project.
Wonderful.
Helped renovate all those buildings, and the
Thank you.
scouts participated, 100% there.
That's a great complex up there,
Yeah,
and it's well used.
it is. I personally, I use the pickleball courts on Wednesday nights, and love the lights there.
Are you good at pickleball?
I'm okay.
See the guy to my left?
Yeah.
He's a chump. You can take him like nothing.
All right, maybe. We'll see.
Put a little wager on it.
There we go.
So, yeah, the banana. So, what do you foresee, what you'd like to change coming up?
I don't know if there's any changes. I mean, aside from I'd love to see more fields, but I don't think that's something that one person can do. I think it involves not only the Parks and Rec Commission, but the entire town needs to participate in that. Overall, I'd love to see more participation, and in things like, you know, the town cleanup, if we were to put together some sort of pickleball night at the courts or in the winter in the Misco gym, things like that.
So there's an old saying, if you think about it, why don't you do it?
I could.
Put a pickleball tournament together.
All right. Well, I already do help run pickleball for Chris Hadfield's Next Step Sports Academy, so I think I can use those skills.
I think a great fundraiser in Mendon would be the fire department against the police department.
Duly noted.
And we can get the selectmen
I
in
was
here.
thinking the select board as well.
Yeah, we'll get them all in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you for your service. We're going to skip the next person for Park Commissioner because Park Commissioner for 3 years, Joanne Lamoth. Joanne? Where's the buck? Joanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Joanne Lamoth. I've been a Mendon resident for 3 years. My husband was born and raised in Mendon, so 3 years ago we decided Joanne wanted to live in Mendon. Joanne's always wanted to live in Mendon, so we came back to Mendon. I currently sit on the Mendon Cultural Council. I also sit on the General Bylaw Committee. And I wanted to run for Parks Commission because I was a Parks child. Growing up, we went to the parks all the time and I enjoyed it. And there was a lot of offerings, so I felt it's time for me to sit on a committee to give back from what I enjoyed as a youth. I currently are on a lot of committees. I'm a member of the Lions Club, I'm a member of the Historical Society, and
Well, you know, thank you. But you got some big things coming up.
I do.
And this is your chance to do a public relations plug with no charge.
As everybody knows, this year is the 250th signing of the Declaration of Independence. On August 2nd, it will be 250 years that that declaration was signed. Mendon is hosting a mock signing of the Declaration of Independence on August 2nd. It will be an afternoon affair and also will run into the early evening. Starting at 12:30 to 2:30, we will have an historic trolley tour that'll take you through the town and stop at historic places and tell you about the events. We are hoping that we can have somebody stand in front of the old inn and talk about the history in the old inn. And then at 3 o'clock in front of the town hall here, we will start with a town crier calling together the signing. We are asking residents of Mendon to sign up. There'll be 56 delegates, so if we get more than 56 people to sign the declaration, you will be signing it in your own name, and it is open to both men and women. That document then will become part of Mendon's living history. I hope you all take a chance at trying to join. It's going to be a fun affair. We will at night have a band concert up at the town park, so we'll be utilizing the parks as well. What? We'd like to have fireworks, but we can't afford fireworks. So, if you know any businesses or organizations that would like to donate towards fireworks, we greatly appreciate it. The brothers have been very gracious to help donate their funds to the event, and I'm challenging all other groups or companies in the town and the local area to donate as well.
So that idea of a pickleball tournament,
That's a good idea. I also would like to see the parks do something in the winter, be it like sled racing or snowshoeing. I mean, we have enough facilities in this town that we could do something all year long as far as for the kids or for adults or anything. We really should utilize those areas.
so I'm going to ask you the same question as I asked the previous park commissioner. Is there anything that you would like to see in the future change or modify?
Changed or modified? Well, I think more groups in town working with each other. Not this group do this group do that, do cross-group functions. Be it like the Lions Club works with the parks and does an event, or, you know, the Historical Society, or all the groups come together and just do different events through the year.
And I know you haven't been on yet, but you're really active. What about fields?
That I'd have to take and think about,
Yeah, it's
because I
unfair.
didn't grow up in
It's
town,
unfair to
and
ask you.
I didn't have any children that
Yeah.
went through.
Yeah.
From listening to everybody, it sounds like we need more fields. I just have not been to,
No, I
and I'll be
understand.
honest, I've not been to them.
And that's an unfair question for you, but knowing you, I thought you'd have a good answer.
Okay,
I
yes,
guess I was wrong.
no.
Anything else you want to bring up? Anybody have any questions at all? Man, you've been standing there with that mic for a half hour. Ask a question.
And I'll ask our participants online if anyone has a question they'd like to put out there. Feel free to raise your hand. Not seeing any? No? Again, content listening.
And I would probably ask you to remind everybody that even though there's no competition, to go
vote.
out and
Please
vote.
go vote.
Go vote.
Go vote. You can't squawk about something if you don't vote.
No. Thank you. Good luck to you. Planning Board for 5 years. Oh, my God, it's like going to Sing Sing. Francis Nero. Frank?
Thanks, Dickie.
Oh, no problem.
So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Frank Nero. I grew up in Milford. I moved to Mendon with my family 23 years ago. I raised my kids in Mendon. They went through the Mendon school system. Volunteered for Nipmuc youth sports, baseball, football, and so forth. Had a great time, experience, met a lot of great people. Locally or professionally, I've practiced law for over 34 years locally. My focus is in real estate, finance. A lot of that does involve development, planning, and so forth. So I work with homeowners, buyers, sellers, landowners, banks, and so forth. I was an original member of the Master Plan Committee in Mendon. I currently serve on the Land Use Committee and am a member of the Zoning Bylaw Committee. So at one point last year, there being a vacancy on the planning board, some people reached out to me and asked me to put my name in the hat. I was appointed by the select board and to fill Bill Ambrosino's vacancy. So although I may not be able to fill the big shoes Bill left, I hope to follow in those footsteps. I knew Bill well enough to know that he was a great example. As chairman of the planning board, I believe he ran the board with common sense, reasonableness, fairness, but also with a mind of getting things done. You can't stop development, but you can impose reasonableness and fairness and make sure that it fits with the nature of the town. And so a thoughtful, fair, reasonable approach is what I hope to bring. I hope my experience lends itself to that. And of course, although it's been a brief tenure on the planning board, I was familiar with them, and so a little less than a year seeing how they operate, under the new chairmanship, that, I think they approach things in a fair, reasonable way, but also understanding that property owners have interests, and if we can balance those interests with growth in the town and with an eye towards open space, natural resources. Mendon has a long history, and we want to preserve, I think, that character in town without, restricting reasonable use of someone's land.
I got to tell you, this is no tribute to Billy, but you have a lot of what Billy believed in you. I had the opportunity to coach Billy when he was 10, 11 years old, and if he's listening, he wasn't that good of a ball player. Good kid, brought a lot to the town, and really brought Mendon in his heart and soul. Good guy.
Well, and as unfortunate as it was, I was honored when people reached out to me, and a little bit daunting because Bill was such a presence.
Yeah, he was.
And such a personality. So I think anyone that knew him knew him well would agree with that. So again, big shoes to fill, but good footsteps to
You'll fill
follow. And I think with the experience I've had, I hope to bring that professionalism and having a knowledge of land use in general and permitting and everything that goes along with it.
Good. Anyone, any questions at all? Yes, please.
One of the things Jason said during his stump speech is that an obstacle to more growth in the town is our lack of services. How do you see the planning board able to help out, provide sewer, water, better electricity or whatnot to bring more commercial activity in the town so that we don't have to keep raising property taxes?
Well, I think the role of the planning board, again, is to apply zoning bylaws to those applications that come forward, and keeping in mind that there is, for a relatively rural town, there are limited infrastructure, and whatever those applications that come forward, keeping that in mind, that we don't want to overburden that infrastructure. So I don't know if there's anything in particular as a planning board member, but to keep an eye towards that and, reasonable development based on Mendon's existing infrastructure, but again, also wanting to promote reasonable development, and I think the town needs that. I don't know that we'll be able to stop it or that we would want to stop it, and I think our tax base is important, and whether it be residential, commercial, that might contribute to improving that infrastructure, and the roads, the well exploration, maybe someday a sewer system, but yeah, with an eye, planning with an eye towards the future, the next 10, 20 or more years. Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, Francis, I wish you well.
Thank you.
And
Those shows are full. Thank you.
thank you. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Candidate for re-election to the Taft Library Board, Jimmy Trace. Jimmy? Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We had you on Zoom 2 years ago?
Yes, so 3 years ago.
Where were you?
I was down in D.C. I was finishing up my last set of orders in the Coast Guard. So that's actually my first thank you. Hi, I'm James Thatch.
I wasn't done yet.
Well, I'm sorry, then keep going. I need the banana.
Hey, go ahead.
Actually, to the Brothers of the Brush, of one, putting this on and making this happen and making sure that we as a community have an opportunity to talk to our candidates. And empowering us to be able to do it remotely. I'd mentioned, but I was finishing up my last set of orders in the Coast Guard 3 years ago, sitting down in D.C., and had all of my paperwork done, and they're like, hey, you got a candidate night. And I'm like, shoot, how am I going to do that? And they're like, we got it covered. This is all you got to do is be online. and it worked flawlessly. It was awesome. So I've been in town since 2009 now, so it's been a few years. And once I kind of finished up my career on the Coast Guard side, really started to focus towards small town politics and what we can do as individuals in the town to help the town. And the library to me is one of those special places. We have a very unique library in our town. It is a truly safe space for folks to come and learn and explore and grow. And it is definitely not your typical library, especially if you go in during some of the kids' programs and other things that are happening. But that's also very fitting for our community. It's a really kind of warm, open environment that is, it's comforting. And to me, that's special. So a few years back when I was asked to go for the position as a trustee, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting into. But I very quickly realized that because of how small our community is, all of our different departments and all of our different boards really do work together and talk to try to find fun solutions. And one of the big things that I try to do is ask folks questions like why? Why are we doing it this way? Why can't we do it this way? What's another way that we might be able to look at it? And the library is really given us an opportunity to, even just a small little group, to start asking some of those bigger questions. I guess the last thing for me is there was a lot of different discussions about what do we want to look like, or where do we want to be, what services do we want to provide. We want to continue being a safe space for people to come. We want folks to feel welcome to come into a library to pick up a book or to talk to someone or to learn a new little skill. Over the past couple of years, I've been hornswoggled into different groups, whether it be the Rectory Subcommittee or into the Capital Planning Group. And one of the big questions we've asked in those different groups is, what assets and resources do we already have in the town that we can figure out how to use better to give our people more space to do stuff? And that's a question we continue to ask, continue to work through. We were lucky to get a bunch of grant money to have another look at the rectory building that sits right next to the library to see if there's something that we can do with that. And the long of the short of that question is, yes, there's a lot of things we can do with it, but we also want to do that at a smart time when it makes fiscal sense for the town, for the taxpayers, and for the community. But in an ideal world, we'd have a little extra space to be able to have more community programs, to be able to have the kids groups have a rambunctious, awesome, fun time, and still maybe some quiet space for folks to be able to come in and do some reading or have a conversation.
Good.
But that's down the road.
Good.
We got time.
Good.
And the cool part, we've had awesome conversations between the town administrator, the select board, capital planning, and many other groups, recognizing that there are a lot of things between now and 5 years out of like, where does that budget sit? Where does that money sit? It's not like we can just flick a switch and make certain things happen. And there's a reason that we stood up the rectory, the subcommittee, we found out information, and we smartly said, cool, we've got the info, let's pause until between us and the senior centers and some of these other bigger asks that are out there, there's a smart time to really evaluate to make it something that's possible instead of just trying to push something forward that's wouldn't make sense and it's just the wrong time to do.
Well, thank you for your enthusiasm and your vision.
I'm dyslexic, and I say that openly, and I remind folks frequently. I was very fortunate that in third grade, they figured out I was dyslexic. I'm not good at reading. I haven't been for a long time, and it's very hard for me. So it's funny that I want to be a trustee for a library. But when I talk about having a safe space and a comfortable space to sit down and have that discussion, that's what I see within our town, and that's what I see within our people, which is
Good.
Really special.
Good. Anybody have any questions at all? Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
No, James, I just wanted to know if you wanted to talk a little bit about the emergency plan that you did for the library and all the amazing effort that you put in on that.
Thank you. So a little bit more on my background. I'd done 27 years in the Coast Guard, both enlisted and officer, and I served in many different facets in different forms of emergency management. Thankfully, worked on and off with Bucky right here, here at the Mendon PD as well. We took the state of Massachusetts, or Commonwealth of Massachusetts Libraries Association had a great template for an emergency plan, And within our building, we didn't have anything really telling folks, hey, what are you going to do if the fire alarm goes off? What are you going to do if someone is being unruly? What if someone has a medical emergency? So we took the time to sit down and really write it out and built out, it's not a very big plan, maybe 30 some odd pages, but a plan designed for that building and something that the staff can use to actually help people in the worst case scenario. Our next steps, which I think are really cool, is continuing training. We are going to be actually doing the next step presentation to the rest of the library staff next month. We have already had the fire department come down and do first aid CPR training with the staff at the library, and we're going to be doing that on a cycle. And then hopefully exercising some of these larger events with police and fire so we all know what we're going to do in case of worst case scenario. I will say so I know I get in trouble for saying this one. Everyone knows what R&D is, research and development. There's always also a joke when it comes to policies. It's also rip off and duplicate. So we have a template now that is something that can be used for any other facility in the town. So it makes it that much easier. All we have to do is plug and play, pull out the library's name and the specifics of the library and put in whatever we want. We can't keep our people safe unless we actually tell them what they need to do in the worst case scenario and help train them on what they need to do. It's never perfect, but those are fundamental when it comes to emergencies.
Great. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Anybody else? So Jimmy, I need to ask you a question. Where the library was right next door, I do have a book that librarian Laura Rhodes signed me out on in 1972.
Yeah.
So just for public information,
Perfect, thank you.
I got the book.
Yeah, oh, you do? You know what, no fee. No fee. And actually, that's a
Hey,
fun
we
one.
got this on tape?
You did.
It's recorded.
It was, I don't know when it went into play, but it's been now a couple of years where we've gone to fee-free, where if you are overdue, yes, of course we need the books back. We want to make sure we get them into circulation, but we're not going to go after you and ask you to give us the 25 cents for the time that it was out. Because I was that person too, and I walked to Andrew and I said, Andrew, I'm a trustee and I had a book that's overdue. And I was open about it. I admitted my mistake, and he's like, "You're fine. It's okay. We keep this going, so we keep track of where the books are." And actually, you bring up a good point. A lot of folks don't recognize that our inventory is not huge. We do a ton of requests of books from other libraries. So what you get when it comes to you here at the library could be from all other different towns. And those boxes are going back and forth every other day or so that you have access to even more. And that's where the system of kind of the central library areas, and there's an acronym for it, I'm going to screw it up, so I'm not going to say it, but it allows you to get access to more books, more resources, either electronically or physically. That's not going away. We're just doing more of that even more. So with the limited space we have where we can't keep everything on the shelf, if you use the system and you ask for it, you're going to get it in a couple days.
Wow.
It may come from halfway across the state.
That's great. Anybody else? That was great bringing that up. Well, thank you. I
Awesome.
appreciate it. And
Thank you.
again, thank you for your service. Thank you. So I believe this, we're going to conclude, but I please remind everyone, whether you're here or listening, May 12th, annual town meeting, and May 19th, elections. Thank you all and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Danny, you can shut that off. Everything we say is off the record, right? Gotta wait till it's officially off the record.